Like, I don't mind vegan food, I have nothing against it, but all of this kind of like, it's almost like we're trying to be brainwashed by it, and I feel like maybe a more like calmer approach, I feel like that would definitely make me feel like I would want to change more.
First of all, can I ask you your thoughts on animals generally?
I think animals are really nice, and yeah, I think animals should all be looked after. Whatever animal it is, depending whether it's a dog or a cat or fishes, no matter what the size is, I think all animals deserve like equal chances at being cared for like properly.
Cool. And what do you think about animal abuse or animal abusers?
I think it's absolutely disgusting, like animal abuse. It's just like not right at all to be abusing animals. They haven't done anything wrong. They're just, all animals, no matter what different type of characteristics they may have, like if they're aggressive or something, it's not right to abuse them. You should teach them how to be better by rewarding them for being good and things. And also all animals are like good in their own ways, and they're all amazing and should just be treated fairly and not be like abused or left unfed or things like that, that just, they don't have any control over it, so why not just help them?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, would you say that animals, so someone with less ability to defend themselves should be treated with compassion and kindness?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they don't have like, they can't say anything, they can't speak, so yeah. Yeah,
exactly. Do you think because society might say that some animals are like they're supposed to be exploited, or that's something that's normalized animal exploitation, does that make it okay?
No, it's not okay at all. All animals, they can't speak, so they can't choose where they go. For example, if they're used like in certain countries, like it's not right, especially in Asia and things, when animals are used for food, and it's not like the animals that are used for food aren't, like it's not humane to do that with them. Animals are used in circuses and things, and it's just like not good at all, because they don't like it, and it can cause like depression among animals and things. Like they still have emotions, they can still feel things, although they can't speak. It is clear that they can still have like struggles and things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great answer. Can I ask you, you said about humane. How do you define humane?
I think humane is really, personally, I have a dog myself, and I treat him just like I would if he was like my child. Like, I wouldn't ever do something that wasn't fair to him, or I wouldn't put him through anything just because he's an animal. Like, they all deserve to experience the same sort of things and be like, you know, stimulated by things that they can do. It's not fair to just leave them, because they need to like have things to do.
Yeah, like human animals, non-human animals shouldn't be neglected, right?
Yeah.
They should be treated with like kindness.
Definitely, they should all be treated the same.
Cool. And my last question for you, do you think animals, you said about like in Asia, animals are exploited and abused for food. Do you think the same happens here? Like the animals in Western countries, do you think they get exploited for food?
Some animals get used for food. I wouldn't say, I don't have much knowledge about it, but I expect in places nearby to Asia might also experience. Also places where they don't have a lot of money, like deprivation, they might use animals instead of like sourcing like humane sort of food, rather than just taking things just for the like interest in the cheapness of them, because it's easy to get lots of them because they can breed and things.
Yeah, so would you say that the like farming practices and stuff often it's about efficiency and money and not necessarily about the welfare and taking care of those animals?
I think, yeah, and in some ways it is really, because in farming, like, farmers just do it because they want the money for their food and things. Some farmers don't farm their food, but the ones who do, and I know this for a fact because I know some farmers, that I don't think they really care about their animals, they just care about the food and the money that can come out of it.
Yeah, a lot of them are like just doing it to make a living, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think there's definitely is a minority which really do care about the animals. But do you think that if you're caring for an animal, then you'd forcefully impregnate them or kill them? Do you think that's a compassionate thing to do?
No, definitely not. I don't think it's right to. You shouldn't have to force them. They should naturally do it if they will. And also, like, forcefully, also like putting them in really small, tight spaces is quite forceful as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, making them do things that they don't want to do isn't fair. I think they should all have a right to roam free, and I think that there should definitely be more animals that are contained, should definitely be in a more wild sort of environment, because at the moment there's not many, because they're being used for food. And
like, autonomy is an important thing, isn't it? Like consent and free will.
Yeah.
Like humans should have it, animals should also have it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'd agree. Do you know what happens in standard farming practices in the UK to get food?
Not really, no.
So I'll just quickly run you through like a couple examples. So for dairy, do you know how dairy is produced? Do you know why a dairy cow would produce milk?
For its children.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and you say about animals should have the autonomy to reproduce under their own free will. Do you think that happens in animal agriculture?
I think sometimes. It depends what environment it's in, really. A lot of the time in farming it is normally forceful, but yeah. Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, it's a very, very small minority where it's actually consensual, where the animals do it on their own free will. The vast majority of the time it's forceful impregnation.
Yeah.
So they'll take the semen from the bull. Again, that's not consensual, they'll do that forcefully.
No.
And then they'll forcefully impregnate the cow with that semen, and then after a 9-month gestation period, they'll take the calf away from the mother and separate the calf from that mother.
Yeah.
And then they'll take the milk which is intended for the calf away to feed humans. And then this kind of vicious cycle goes on until the cow stops producing milk, and then they'll kill that cow.
That's just terrible.
Exactly. And all those things happen just so humans can consume that milk when there's a plant-based option. It's the same with the flesh of these animals. We consume their flesh, but there's a plant-based option which doesn't cause an animal to be gassed alive, to get shot in the head. Do you think choosing a plant-based option would be the more compassionate thing to do?
I think, yeah, in the long run it would be, but I suppose a lot of people in Britain have been brought up on meat and things because there's such a high demand for farming and things. But yeah, I think it needs to be implemented into like cuisine a bit more, definitely, because I don't think many people know about it.
Yeah.
And I've never heard of it either before until today, so yeah.
Do you think, like going back to what we said before about it being normal, do you think just because it's normal that makes it okay? Like just because we've grown up on it and everyone said it's, it's tradition, it's how we've always done it, then we should continue that way? Do you think that's necessarily the case?
I don't know how the human race would really survive without it. Only because, I've only ever eaten, I've eaten meat, I'm a meat eater. But I feel like it depends really. I think definitely starts to limit how much you eat and try if there is an option to have that. But yeah, I think as long as you're not killing the animals and perhaps maybe doing it in more of a less forceful way, I think it can be okay in some ways.
Well, to get the flesh of the animals for meat, they have to be killed.
Yeah.
And for it to be economically viable for the farmers and for the agricultural system, they do these practices which shorten their lifespan, confine them in small spaces to make it efficient and like financially viable for them. So if we're going to be consuming their animal products, there's always going to be really inhumane things that happen to these animals, like confining them, like gassing them in groups, in cages.
Yeah.
These things happen for the flesh that we enjoy. Did you know that we don't have to consume animal products at all to live healthily?
No, I didn't. No.
Yeah, it's been proven it actually reduces lots of health conditions.
Really?
So like heart disease, meat's also carcinogenic, so it causes cancers in humans. So all these things can be avoided if we have a plant-based diet, or minimized. And so it's not only just better for our health, but also better for the environment as well. So it's been shown that we'd have a much reduced impact on the environment if we went plant-based. And that's not even talking about the animals, which won't live lives of torment and suffering and ultimately being killed. So do you think maybe that's a positive alternative if we have that option?
I think so, yeah, it is definitely.
Would you consider making that change in your personal life? Because we all have the ability now to choose a plant-based option.
I've tried to before, I just didn't really enjoy it, but maybe, I think so. I think definitely seeing how much extinction's happening and how there's so many less animals than there was like before, like the whole demand got higher because of more population in the UK and things.
And it's not just a bigger population, it's a bigger population exploiting at a bigger extent. You know, like if it's been shown that if the human race was eating a plant-based diet, we could actually live in harmony with the environment. We could actually feed everyone, but reduce our impact massively.
Yeah.
But because we're eating the flesh of these animals and the secretions like dairy or eggs, we're actually massively increasing the impact we're having on the environment. Because like I say, these animals which we're consuming, they have to eat plants. So we're deforesting the environment to grow crops which we're then feeding to these animals to then eat. Instead of doing that, we could just eat the plants and we'd reduce our impact on the environment massively. And again, we wouldn't be breeding these animals into an existence of suffering. So something we can also easily do is abstain from animal products, and we'd have a massive impact on these animals, the environment, and our health as well.
Could I just ask what plants? What's like the plants that you could eat?
Well, any plant. Name any plant. I mean, well, obviously there's some plants which aren't good for human health.
Yeah.
But I mean, the list is huge. There's thousands and thousands of plants. Like fruits, vegetables. Do you know what like legumes are? Grains.
Yeah.
There's loads and loads of
like
options.
It's very hard, and it will be more expensive to source because, like, you've got all of the food groups when you have all these like products from animals and things. So.
Well, there's actually multiple studies that show it can be cheaper to be on a plant-based diet, because if you're, like some processed vegan foods can be more expensive, but if you're eating more whole foods, like natural ingredients, it can actually be a lot cheaper. But do you think it would be for the animals which get tortured for our pleasure, for the food we eat? Do you think it's worth it for like the effort we're going to not consume those animals? The impact on them is massive, isn't it? Because it's their entire life at stake.
Yeah.
Like if it was, I called myself a meat eater. I ate meat for 18 years of my life, and then I watched a documentary called Dominion, and I saw what happens to the animals from their perspective. And you see footage from, these animals getting, like chickens get ground up alive on their first day of birth if they're male. If all these animals get gassed or shot in the head. And once you see that, and once you really make that connection of the thing I'm buying is causing this animal to suffer immensely, I think it puts you into perspective of like the pleasure you get really isn't more important than the life of that animal. Hey guys, sorry, I'm having a conversation. Can I talk to you in a bit? Come back in like 5-10 minutes. Cheers. So do you think that change would be worth it in your life? The impact that you'd have?
I mean, I don't plan on changing, mainly because I don't like a lot of plants and things. Like, I find the food's just so, I mean, for some people it's good, but for people like me, and like with my like extra health problems and things.
What's that?
Well, I have scoliosis, so I need to eat extra calcium and things.
Well, you can
and
eat
can't-
loads of calcium in plants, and you can like get supplements. You know, and like there's nothing wrong with supplementing, because often these animals get supplemented with I can't think of a good example now, but they get supplemented in the food that we eat. So instead of just eating the animals which are supplemented, we could just supplement calcium. And it's really easy, just take one tablet every day. It's very simple. But I mean, there's also loads and loads of plant-based foods which are fortified with calcium and have calcium in. You don't need to get the animal product.
Yeah, I mean, if the because if the NHS tells you to, I think that's a big part as well with like when healthy eating's put into practice in like the National Health Service and things. There's often a lot of recommendations of like meat-based products and dairy and things that come from animals, because I think it's so like deeply ingrained. And I've tried plant-based food and it doesn't taste half as nice as like meat and things.
Well, I think I'd urge you to try other options, because there's so many plant-based foods out there now. And I'm not saying like you have to eat just vegetables. Like there's loads of, you know, plant-based pizzas, pasta, like Asian cuisine. There's loads of amazing plant-based food. Like it's not like a very small thing that, you know, there's few options. But like going back to what you said earlier, if you think that we should be treating non-human animals with compassion, well, the biggest thing we can do is not to eat their flesh, because when we're eating their flesh, these animals haven't been treated with compassion. They've been tortured throughout their life and they die in agony. So if you want to treat animals with compassion, the biggest thing you can do is abstain from animal products and go vegan, because eating animals is never going to be compassionate. They're never going to have good lives, because all these awful things that I talked to you before happen to them.
Yeah.
And we do have these plant-based options now, and they might taste a slight bit different, but to those animals, they're not dying for your enjoyment. You know, and if you want to treat these other animals like you treat a dog, with love and compassion, then, you know, I don't think it makes sense to pay for them to be gassed, does it? We wouldn't do that to a dog. We wouldn't do that to our pets. So why do that to animals which aren't our pets? They have no difference in the ability to suffer or feel pleasure.
What about dogs who eat meat? Because the majority of dogs they're meat eaters. The dogs, saying about dogs being like healthy and things, well, that's one way of treating them right, feeding them what they've always, since like they evolved, have eaten. It just wouldn't be like right to change their diet to like go and say, oh, go and eat some grass or something.
Well,
like, it just doesn't
question.
work, you know.
So I mean, again, with dogs as well as humans, it's been shown that they're omnivorous. They don't have to consume meat to live healthily and thrive. So, you know, I've got a friend who feeds their dog a plant-based diet, and they're really healthy, that dog. They don't need to consume meat.
Yeah.
It's the same with humans. I know loads and loads of humans that are not just like surviving, but also thriving on a plant-based diet. Like there might be things that say you need to eat meat, but you've got to kind of question, you know, who's funding that. And, you know, there's countless studies that show you don't have to do that. And like I say, living proof that you don't need to consume meat or dairy or eggs.
Yeah.
You know, I've been vegan for 3 years, and, you know, I track my nutrition and I know I get everything that I need. You don't need to consume animal products at all. So if that is an option, then why not choose that? If we can choose to be compassionate and treat animals with kindness and not exploit them, I'm asking people to consider that option.
The thing is with meat is that you get iron, and iron is
You get
what
iron
you
from
need.
plants though. Kale has loads of iron in. Like, there's loads of plants that have loads of iron in. You don't need it from animal products.
Yeah.
Like, don't take my word for it. Please, like, look into studies and look into how to get these nutrients yourself. But like, if that was the case, say that's a given, and you could get everything just from plants, do you think that's the more compassionate thing to do for these animals?
It is compassionate, yeah, it is. But I guess because the animals are being killed, but it is like also, it's just so, there's not much of a range in like vegan or vegetarian options. So I just think that personally, I think it's better to just like eat what you can afford, because not many people have enough money to buy like a pizza made out of like an oak tree or something.
Well, like I say, some processed vegan foods can be a bit more expensive, but often it won't be much more expensive. But like the majority of stuff in supermarkets is plant-based already.
Yeah.
So you can get those ingredients and make something. But even if you're feeling a bit more lazy, you can get a plant-based option, which isn't often the same price or cheaper, isn't necessarily more expensive.
I feel like I'd have to try a plant-based option one day and see whether
Well, try a few different ones.
Yeah.
Because there's some, there might be some meats that you don't like, but some meats you do. Same with plants. Might not like some plants, but you like others.
Yeah.
So give different versions a go. Like vegan cheeses, some I don't like, but some I do really like. So you got to try the ones and find what works for your taste buds. But ultimately, I want to bring it back to these animals. Like, it might take a little bit more effort, but for these animals, that's an entire life of
definitely.
exploitation and murder. And if we can separate ourselves from that and not treat them with, not treat them with cruelty, but treat them with compassion, I'm asking people to consider that option, because we do have that option. And if we can make that switch, why not?
Yeah.
If I gave you a resource which has plant-based options and nutritionists, which will kind of guide you into transitioning away from consuming animals, is that something you'd consider?
Not for now, because for personal reasons it just wouldn't be possible to keep with that diet, because my whole family eats meat and things. They've heard about vegan things, but it's just not my sort of thing, really.
Well, are you into like doing a little bit of research and like kind of finding the truth?
I'll have a look at it.
Because that's what I did. Like I for my whole life I didn't really question what I grew up with, and I just ate what was put on my plate.
Yeah.
But once you know what happens to these animals and find out that there is an alternative, you can kind of suggest that to your parents and maybe ask for a plant-based meal every now and then, and try and increase the plants you're eating and move away from animals.
I do believe that some of the things that you find on research can be quite passive-aggressive. So that's what's drawn me a bit away from it, because I've seen things like this person on, I don't know whether you know TikTok, someone called the Vegan Teacher.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, she's
a little bit controversial.
She's very, that's what's kind of put me off. Like, I don't mind vegan food, I have nothing against it, but all of this kind of like, it's almost like we're trying to be brainwashed by it, and I feel like maybe a more like calmer approach, I feel like that would definitely make me feel like I would want to change more.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all about education, and I'm not telling you to do anything. It's entirely your choice, but I'm just urging people to consider the choice of the animals as well and their perspective, because every choice that we make has an impact on someone else. And if we can reduce that impact and treat someone with kindness, why not? And yeah, like I say, like stuff like that, it might feel like manipulation, or what was the word you used?
Passive-aggressive.
Yeah, like passive-aggressive. But do you think it could also be a manipulation when we're growing up into normalizing eating animals? That's something I thought about. Like, I always grew up eating animals and I never thought about it. Then it's considered an ideology, veganism, but there's something called carnism, which is the ideology that consuming animals is normal. But that might be not the case. I mean, it's normalized, but why is forcefully impregnating and killing animals considered normal? Because everyone else does it, but that doesn't necessarily make it okay. So just because someone else says it's fine, or society says it's fine, I don't think that necessarily makes it okay. In the past, awful things have happened to people or animals. People have been oppressed, and it's been considered normal.
Yeah.
And everyone maintains that. But then it takes a few people to realize, actually, maybe that's not okay. Maybe I need to speak up for these people which are being oppressed. So I'd urge you to consider the perspective of the animals, and if you consider like veganism and treating animals with compassion kind of, what's the word? If you think it's like a valid argument, then consider making those changes in your personal life, because we all have the ability to do that. And it might seem like a big thing, but I did it through like steps, cutting out animal products and educating myself, watching documentaries, reading research papers, things like that. Just like keep educating yourself and finding out these things. And just because if someone else says it's okay, critically think about that and think, is it okay? Because maybe it's not. Maybe you don't want to be part of it. That's what I realised.
Yeah. What's the difference between vegetarian and vegan?
So vegetarians don't consume the flesh of those animals, but they'll still consume the dairy and eggs of the animals. But I went vegetarian before going vegan, but I then watched a documentary called Cowspiracy, and I realised that to get the dairy from these animals, we still have to separate them from their calves. We still have to forcefully impregnate them, and ultimately they still get murdered at the end of their life.
Yeah.
Same with eggs. To get eggs, the male chicks are all macerated alive. They'll get debeaked, all these awful things. When I have a plant-based option, so vegetarianism might reduce our impact, but it's not abstaining from animal exploitation entirely.
Yeah, definitely.
Veganism's about stopping commodifying these animals and treating them not as something, but as someone who can experience pain and pleasure. Because like dogs, I believe that cows, pigs, chickens have the ability to experience pleasure and pain. And if they're sentient, if they can, then I don't want to add to their suffering. I want to treat them with compassion.
But the thing is, with veganism, even if you stop eating all the meat, they're still being killed. So you can still go and get the food. So in the long run,
like supply and demand. By me abstaining from it, I am reducing those animals which are being exploited. There's still a massive amount of exploitation happening, but by my choices, I'm reducing that. And if you think, by any change in history, it's always happened by a big group of people making changes. So, it might seem like an insignificant amount, but if you change and you speak to someone else and they change, that ripple effect, ultimately that will move society. You see more plant-based options now. That's because people are eating more plants and abstaining from animal products.
Yeah.
If that keeps going, eventually, supermarkets and our society as a whole will be treating animals better and more compassionately. So, it's that the cliche of be the change you want to see. If you want society to treat animals with compassion and give them rights, then don't take their rights away and exploit them in your personal life.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for the conversation. What's your name?
Ariella.
Ariella. My name's Amber. Thanks so much. Can I give you a resource before you go?
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button, subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified when videos go up every Thursday. If you want to watch another conversation, here are a couple of options. And if you want to support my activism, there's a link in my profile to a page where you can buy me a coffee and donate money to an animal sanctuary. Thanks. Amber.